Hi, everybody. Welcome to World History. This is our last section of notes on ancient Rome. That means when this video is done, your notes will be due, and your assignment is to start working on your study guide. So go ahead and get your notes out. Let's get started. All right. So after the Age of Pax Romana, which ended when Marcus Aurelius died, it was a period of political violence. Most leaders were overthrown or assassinated, and there was a number of social and economic problems as well. Things like high taxes, business people were taking advantage, and small farmers were losing their farms and being forced to work for wealthy landowners. So Diocletian, one of the emperors that followed, attempted to restore Rome's greatness, and he thought the only way to do this was to divide the empire in two, where you had the Eastern Roman Empire and the Western Roman Empire. Now, Maximilian would then be appointed for the Western Empire to rule, and eventually the West declined while the East flourished. One of Diocletian's other reforms was fixing prices and to deal with inflation or the rapid rise of prices. Farmers remained on their lands, and sons would just simply be expected to take over their father's jobs when they came to adulthood. So eventually, we'd have Emperor Constantine, a very talented general who continued Diocletian's reforms and granted toleration of Christians. He converted to Christianity himself. He moved the capital of the Eastern Empire to Byzantium, or eventually, and renamed the city Constantinople. This is actually now modern-day Istanbul in Turkey. It was the east center of power, and that empire would eventually transition to become the Holy Roman Empire. So some results. Again, this actually worked for a time. The revived economy was well. It increased government power. And a lot of these improvements, while they were good, were temporary. Internal problems and outside attacks continued to make things worse. So a lot of invaders decided, you know what, Rome's weak, let's go after them. So in 200 AD, wars in East Asia began with the Huns, who migrated towards Eastern Europe. They were nomadic, skilled riders, and they fought versus Germanic peoples. They came to Rome for safety and created conflict and fought with the Roman legions because they were weak. Another group we have to worry about is the Visigoths, who were coming from the north. They were a Germanic tribe that, again, also escaped to Rome for safety and eventually revolted against the Romans. You have people like Adrianople, who saw Rome defeated, and Alaric, who was a general, sacked the city of Rome. We're finally at a point in history where the city of Rome would be attacked. Oh, excuse me. Adrianople was a battle. Excuse me. Now, another person we have to talk about is Attila the Hun, who was alive from 434 to 453 AD. He was the most powerful and most feared military force in Europe, was under his control, also known as the Scourge of God. His sons fought each other for supremacy after his death, squandered their resources, and the Hun Empire actually fell apart in 469 AD. It is said the Empire of Attila actually covered a lot of what would eventually become Russia. Finally, Odoacer in 476 AD overthrew the Roman Emperor Romulus Augustulus, and this is the fall of Rome. And he ruled Western Rome as a king, simply, and ruled that. But eventually that would lead to the final collapse of the Roman Empire in the West as we know it. So, some causes that may have caused the fall of Rome. Military attacks or the hiring of mercenaries. These are foreign paid soldiers that weakened the army. Here's an example. Political turmoil. There was a lot of corruption, oppression, authoritarianism in the government, and they lost the support of the people. So a lot of people didn't care when they fell. A number of civil wars were also going on as well, which made things a lot more difficult. This led to a major division in the empire. A lot of people could care less what happened to the empire. Economic weaknesses. Taxes had skyrocketed, slave labor was in a lot bigger use, and the population began to decline. The birth rate dropped massively because people couldn't afford to have kids. There's also some social decline in their values, especially things like patriotism, discipline, and devotion to duty basically evaporated. And they became more materialistic and complacent with things that were going on around them. So the question, did Rome actually fall? Well, Western Rome did. It did fall. The Byzantine Empire or the Eastern Roman Empire, not so much. They'd still be around for a long time. And it was a very long, slow change to Germanic customs and language in the western part of Europe. We'll talk a lot more about that in the next unit over the Middle Ages. And the Christian church actually preserved a lot of elements of the Roman civilization in their traditions that they practice. So again, like I mentioned, the western part of the empire fell, but the eastern part, the Byzantine Empire, or eventually the Holy Roman Empire, would actually flourish for about another 500, 600 years at least. All right, that is it for notes for this unit. Again, your notes are due now, so go ahead and turn those in. What you're going to do now is access the Unit 3 review guide that is posted on Classroom. This unit, for the review, you will get the GIM kit like normal. You'll get that next class. You will also have access to a Quizlet with vocab terms that may or may not be appearing on your test. I will see you all next time. Bye, everyone.